Kim 107 students, we're back in chapter 3 talking about fossil fuels, which means we're talking about energy. So what is energy? Well, energy is defined as the capacity to do work. So it can exist in several forms like potential energy, kinetic, thermal, which means heat, electrical, chemical, nuclear, or other forms, sound, friction. Remember, the first law of thermodynamics states that energy cannot be created nor destroyed, but converted from one form to another. You need to remember the first law of thermodynamics. The units of energy can be joules if we're talking about science, or calories if we're talking about food. A calorie is the energy needed to raise a gram of water by 1 degree Celsius. A gram of water is very small, just a little bit. So just a little bit of water to heat it up by 1 degree is a calorie. So a calorie is actually really small. A calorie equals 4.184 joules. Now it's interesting to note, a food calorie, like on food packages, is actually 1,000 calories. So I'm going to distinguish these by saying food calorie with a capital C, and then a science calorie is a little c. So a food calorie actually needs to be multiplied by 1,000 to be in calories. So in other words, your Snickers bar at 254 calories is really 254,000 calories. See, they didn't want to write that on the wrapper, so they divide everything by 1,000. So let's see if we can calculate the joules starting with an item of food. So food calories, capital C, to joules. Now remember, there's actually 1,000 calories in a big capital C calorie, the food calorie, and there's 4.184 joules in a science calorie. So my question is, how many joules are in a cookie with 135 calories? So hit pause and see if you can figure this out. Okay, like all math problems, you should start with the 135 capital C food calories. Then there's 1,000 calories in a food calorie, so times 1,000. And then there's 4.184 joules in a calorie, so times 4.184 joules. So it looks like this if you write it out the correct way. So 135 big C calories times 1,000 calories over 1 big C calorie times 4.184 joules over 1 calorie, and we get 564,840 joules. Now you need to be able to do this. This is going to be in a quiz. Okay, I will give you the conversion factors. You just need to be able to do this type of calculation. Okay, so remember, you're going to need a calculator for Chapter 3's quiz and for your midterm. All right. Entropy. Entropy is how disorganized or disordered something is. It has uncertainty in it. It's unorganized. It's a mess. This is natural. Natural things tend to become more disordered. So entropy goes up naturally. Nature tends to be disordered. When you drop a vase, it breaks. The pieces spread out randomly and make a mess. They don't land together in the vase shape. No, it makes a mess. That's natural. When the tree loses its leaves, they fall all over the yard. They don't land in a pile. You have to rake the leaves up. When you don't clean your home, it gets messier and messier, right? So naturally, things get disordered. Now let's think about the 3 states of matter, solid, liquid, and gas. Which has more disorder? The solid, where the atoms are in perfect alignment, organized in a pattern. The liquid, where they're close and flowing around each other. The gas, where they're zooming all in different random ways. Which has more entropy? Which has more disorder? I hope you said the gas. Yeah, the gas, because the atoms are just zooming in random all over the place. That's the most disordered. Yeah, so entropy means disorder. Just remember the definition, you'll be fine. All right, we got to do a little bit with the metric system. For mass, which is kind of like weight in the metric system, we use grams. Now, for people, we tend to use kilograms, but when we're measuring out chemicals, we use grams. A pound is much bigger than a gram. A pound is 454 grams. Okay, I'll give that to you if you need it. To measure volume, like of a liquid, we use liters or milliliters, not cups, quarts, and pints. That's the English system. Now, to go back and forth, 1 quart is 946 milliliters, and there's 1,000 milliliters in a liter. Again, I'll give you these if you need them. For distance, we use meters or centimeters, not inches, feet, yards, and miles in the metric system. 1 inch is 2.54 centimeters, and 100 centimeters is a meter. A meter is a little bit longer than a yard. Okay, they're not the same. A yard and a meter are not the same. A meter is a little bit longer than a yard. So you should be able to do one-step conversions if I give you the conversion factors. Okay, again, you don't have to memorize any of these. I will give them to you in your Canvas quizzes and midterm. For example, I got some metric questions for you. 1 inch is 2.54 centimeters. 454 grams is 1 pound, and 946 milliliters equals 1 quart. So I have 3 questions for you to solve. This is the hardest math we're going to do. How many inches are in 357 centimeters? How many grams are in 12.5 pounds? How many milliliters are in 0.75 quarts? Okay, I want you to hit pause and give these a try. Hit pause. Okay, very good. I'm going to go straight to the answers. There they are. So, number 1, start with what you're given, the 357 centimeters. So 357 centimeters. What do we know about centimeters? Well, if we look at our information up there in the purple, we know an inch is 2.54 centimeters. The centimeters needs to go on the bottom because things cancel out top to bottom. So we start with centimeters, means centimeters is on the bottom. So the 1 inch is on the top. 1 inch over 2.54 centimeters. Centimeters cancels, we get inches. So it's 357 times 1 divided by 2.54 equals. And you get 141 inches. Number 2, how many grams are in 12.5 pounds? Start with 12.5 pounds. This means pounds needs to be on the bottom. What do we know about pounds? Well, look up there in the purple. 454 grams equals 1 pound. 1 pound's on the bottom. 454 grams is on top. So we have 12.5 times 454 divided by 1 equals, and we get 5675 grams. Last one, how many milliliters are in 0.75 quarts? 0.75 quarts times, let's look above. What do we know about quarts? Well, we see there's 946 milliliters in a quart. We started with quarts, so quarts has to be on the bottom. So 1 quart's on the bottom, 946 milliliters on top. So we got 0.75 times 946 divided by 1 equals, quarts cancel, 709.5 milliliters. Now, rounding these numbers, you should round them so that there's 3 or 4 digits. You don't have to have a lot of decimal places. I'm not going to be real picky on how you round them. You don't need to write out all the numbers in your calculator. If it has 7 or 8 digits, you can round it. As long as you're getting the right answer, I'm fine. There's no specific place where you need to round it. That's another chemistry class, so we're not going to worry about that. All right, I'm going to have a short little video on some conversions. They're for another class. I just want you to pay attention to the first one in this video after this one, a short little video. All right, catch you later, GCC. That's enough for this video. Bye, 107.